गुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणं रघुनाथानुतं तत्सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नाम्ने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रसारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यादि पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत वेदांत श्रीवासादि गौरवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्रांची पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सकल सर्वसिद्धिरत्नाट्य सर्वलोकप्रद सर्वभागवतुत्थान श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो ललिध्वान्तोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोऽस्तु मे मदैकबन्धो मत्सङ्ग्यं मद्गुरो मन्महाधना मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानन्दनमस्तु ते असाधु साधुता दायि ततनी चोच्चता करा आनमंश गदाचिन्मां प्रेमास्पुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम भगवते वासुदेवाय Okay, 3.30.1 purport. The great politician Pandit named Chanakya said that even one moment of time cannot be returned, even if one is prepared to pay millions of dollars. One cannot calculate the amount of loss there is in wasting valuable time, either materially or spiritually. One should be very alert in utilizing the time which he has at his disposal. The conditioned soul lives in a particular body for a fixed measurement of time, and it is recommended in the scriptures that within that small measurement of time, one has to finish Krishna consciousness and thus gain release from the influence of the time factor. But unfortunately, those who are not in Krishna consciousness are carried away by the strong power of time without their knowledge, as clouds are carried by the wind. 2. Yam yamartham upadatte दुखेन सुख हेतवे तम तम धुनोति भगवान पुमान चोचति यत्कृते. Whatever is produced by the materialist with great pain and labor for so-called happiness, the Supreme Personality as the time factor destroys, and for this reason the conditioned soul laments. Bhagavan Kala. Here Bhagavan refers to the time factor, the supremely powerful time factor. The main function of the time factor, which is a representative of the Supreme Personality of God, is to destroy everything. The materialists in material consciousness are engaged in producing so many things in the name of economic development. They think that by advancing and satisfying the material needs of man, they will be happy, but they forget that everything they have produced will be destroyed in due course of time. From history, we can see that there were many powerful empires on the surface of the globe that were constructed with great pain and great perseverance. But in due course of time, they have all been destroyed. Still, the foolish materialists cannot understand that they are simply wasting time in producing material necessities which are destined to be vanquished in due course of time. This waste of energy is due to the ignorance of the mass of people who do not know that they are eternal and that they have an eternal engagement also. They do not know that the span of life in a particular type of body is but a flash in the eternal journey. Not knowing this fact, they take the small flash of life to be everything. They waste time improving economic conditions. Kala is one reason for distress. Karma is another reason for distress. And Prakriti is another reason for distress. Okay. 3. Yat adhruvasya dehasya sanubandhasya durmatihi dhruvani manyate mohad grihakshetra vasunicha. The misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent and that the attractions of home, land, and wealth which are in relationship to that body are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. Shoke ko hetuhu. Why lament? Because of the impact of the time factor. That is described in this verse. Yad yasmat sa anubandhasya kalatra adisahitasya. Because not only the body is impermanent, temporary, adhruvasya, dehasya, everything that is in relationship with the body, such as wife and so on, they are also temporary. But he thinks that they are permanent. That means for all practical purposes, he thinks that we should deal with them as if they are permanent. The materialist thinks that persons engaged in Krishna consciousness are crazy fellows wasting time by chanting Hare Krishna. But actually, he does not know that he himself is in the darkest region of craziness because of accepting his body as permanent. And in relation to his body, he accepts his home, his country, his society, and all other paraphernalia as permanent. This materialistic acceptance of the permanency of home, land, etc., is called the illusion of Maya. This is clearly mentioned here. Mohad griha kshetram suni. Out of illusion only does the materialist accept his home, his land, and his money as permanent. Out of this illusion, the family life, national life, and economic development, which are very important factors in modern civilization, have grown. The Krishna conscious person knows that this economic development of human society is but temporary illusion. Another part of Srimad Bhagavatam, the acceptance of the body as oneself, the acceptance of others as kinsmen in relationship to this body, and the acceptance of the land of one's birth, as Varshika declared to be the products of an animal civilization. Sayeva go kharaha. When, however, one is enlightened in Krishna consciousness, he can use these for the service of the Lord. That is a very suitable proposition. Everything has a relationship with Krishna. When all economic development and material advancement are utilized to advance the cause of Krishna consciousness, a new phase of progressive life arises. 4. Janturvaibhava etasmin. Yam yam yonim anuvrajay. Tasyam sa labhate nirvritim na virajyate. The living entity in whatever species of life he appears finds a particular type of satisfaction in that species, and he's never averse to being situated in such a condition. Durmatitvam darshayati. In the previous verse, it was stated that out of ignorance only he thinks that everything is permanent and that he is a misguided person, misguided materialist. Misguided. What is the meaning of this misguided? That is stated in text 4. This is the meaning of misguided. The satisfaction of the living entity in a particular type of body, even if it is most abominable, is a man in a higher position may feel dissatisfaction with the standard of life of a lower grade man. But the lower grade man is satisfied in their position because of the spell of Maya, the external energy. Maya has two phases of activities. One is called Prakshepatmika and the other is called Avaranatmika. Avaranatmika means covering and Prakshepatmika means pulling down. In any condition of life, the materialistic person or animal will be satisfied because his knowledge is covered by the influence of Maya. In the lower grade or lower species of life, the development of consciousness is so poor that one cannot understand whether he is happy or distressed. This is called Avaranatmika. Even a hog who lives by eating stool finds himself happy, although a person in a higher mode of life sees that the hog is eating stool. How abominable that life is. Just 1 minute, let me check this. Is it done, sir? So you can't do this. Remark anywhere. 5. Narakasthopi deham vai na pumams tyaktumichhati narakyam nirvrittau satyam devamaya vimohitaha. The conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own species, particular species of life. While deluded by the cowering influence of the illusory energy, he feels a little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. Narakyam nirvritau. Narakyam. Naraka ahara stri sanga adibhihi jataya. So he is happy with the eating, associating with females, with the opposite gender, and so on. Even in hell. Very amazing. Let me look at this Anvaya. Devamaya vimohitaha. Devasya harehe mayaya vimohitaha puman. The man bewildered by Devamaya. That is, bewildered by the Maya of Lord Hari. Narakasthaha api. Even while in hell, Narakyam, Naraka Yogi, Naraka Yogya, Vishtha Aharadivihi Jatayam Nirvritau Pritau Satyam Deham Tam Naraka Kita Adi Deham Yaktum Na Vai Eva Ichhati. He is happy to attain the enjoyment such as eating stool and so on, which is fit for hell. And he does not wish to give up his body, which is a body such as that of a worm eater or an insect in hell. Daivi Maya Vimohita Purush, Naraka Joni Labh Kuriya Ho, Naraka Jogga Ahar Adite Santushta Thakya, Naraki Sharir Paritya Karite Ichha Karena. No desire to give up even this hellish body. Sometimes the animal species itself is considered to be a hellish body because from hell you get an animal body, gross. After you leave hell, you get a gross animal body. There's a question here, I thought. Yes, there is a question. Yes.
So in the previous sloka, it is written, in any condition of life, materialistic person will be satisfied. If human is satisfied, then how he will come to again search for spirituality for satisfaction?
Yes. As long as he is satisfied, he will not come out. That is correct. As long as he is satisfied, is never averse to being in that condition, he will not come out. Only when, through the effect of serving great souls, then he may be able to realize, even to a small extent, that it's not what it appears to be. Otherwise, yeah, it's a fact. Unless there is some mercy, one will be bewildered by avaranatmika vritti of Maya or kshetratmika vritti of Maya, these two aspects of Maya. It's a fact, even though he's suffering so much. This is talking about all of us, actually. It's not just some third person. Okay. It is said that once Indra, the king of heaven, was cursed by his spiritual master Brihaspati on account of his misbehavior and became a hog on this planet. After many days, when Brahma wanted to recall him to his heavenly kingdom, Indra, in the form of a hog, forgot everything of his royal position in the heavenly kingdom and he refused to go back. This is the spell of Maya. Even Indra forgets his heavenly standard of life and is satisfied with the standard of a hog's life. By the influence of Maya, the conditioned soul becomes so affectionate towards his particular type of body that if he is offered, give up this body and immediately you will have a king's body, he will not agree. Because you have to give up this body. This attachment strongly affects all conditioned living entities. Lord Krishna is personally canvassing. Give up everything in this material world. Come to me. I shall give you all protection. But we are not agreeable. We think we are quite all right. Why should we surrender unto Krishna and go back to his kingdom? This is called illusion or Maya. Everyone is satisfied with the standard of living, however abominable it may be. 6. Atmajaya sutagara pashu dravanabandhushu nirudha mula hridaya atmanam bahumanyate. Such satisfaction with one's standard of living is due to deep-rooted attraction for body, wife, home, children, animals, wealth, and friends. In such association, the conditioned soul thinks himself quite perfect. Nirudham moolam yasya tadrisham hridayam yasya saha. In his heart, there is deep-rooted attraction for his body, wife, children, home, domestic animals, wealth, friends. So he thinks very highly of himself. This so-called perfection of human life is a concoction. Therefore, it is said that the materialist, however materially qualified he may be, is worthless because he is hovering on the mental plane, which will drag him again to the material existence of temporary life. One who acts on the mental plane cannot get promotion to the spiritual. Such a person is always sure to glide down again to material life. In the association of so-called society, friendship, and love, the conditioned soul appears completely satisfied. 7. Sandakhyamana sarvanga esham udvahanadhina karotyaviratam mudho duritani durashaya. Although he is always burning in anxiety, such a fool always performs all kinds of mischievous activities with the hope which is never to be fulfilled in order to maintain his so-called family and society. Udvahana adhina Rakshana, Poshana, Anuranjana, Vivaha Pradana, Adichintaya, Udvahanadina, with the anxiety for maintaining his family and community. This refers to being anxiety about protecting, nourishing, loving, giving children in marriage, and so on. It is said that it is easier to maintain a great empire than to maintain a small family, especially in these days, when the influence of Kali Yuga is so strong that everyone is harassed and full of anxieties because of accepting the false presentation of Maya's family. The family we maintain is created by Maya. It is a perverted reflection of the family in Krishna Loka. In Krishna Loka, there are also family, friends, society, father and mother. Everything is there, but they are eternal. Here, as we change bodies, our family relationships also change. Sometimes we are in a family of human beings, sometimes in a family of demigods, sometimes a family of cats, or sometimes a family of dogs. Family, society, and friendship are flickering, and so they are called asat. It is said that as long as we are attached to this asat, temporary, non-existing society and family, we are always full of anxieties. So non-existing itself means temporary. But in order to push us towards the eternal, the Vedic scriptures use this language that this is all non-existing, non-existing, non-existing. Nasato vidyate bhav, and so on. The materialists do not know that the family, society, and friendship here in this material world are only shadows, and thus they become attached. Naturally, their hearts are always burning. But in spite of all inconvenience, they still work to maintain such false families because they have no information of the real family association with 8. Here it is 8 and 9. There is no Sarartha Darshini for text 8. 8. Akshiptatmendriya strinam asatinam cha mayaya raho rachitaya lapai shishunam kalabhashinam. He gives heart and senses to a woman, literally women, plural, Srinam, who falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys solitary embraces and talking with them, and he is enchanted by the sweet words of the small children. Asatina. Right. In Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur edition also, 8 and 9 come together. Asatinam, pumschalinam strinam rahasi rachitaya, sambhogadi rupaya, mayaya, mohaka shaktya, kalabhashinam, shishunam, alapaicha, akshiptendriyaha. No, akshipta atma indriyaha, akshiptaha, akrishtaha, atma antahkaranam, indriyani cha yasya saha. Here, the women are described as asatinam, which means they are false. Pumschalinam, unchaste. His mind and senses, that means his mind and body, are completely overcome, completely attracted to the bewilderment caused by sexual union and so on, provided to him in privacy by unchaste women. And he is also very much bewildered by the sweet words of small children. Family life within the kingdom of illusory energy, Maya, is just like a prison for the eternal living entity. In prison, a prisoner is shackled by iron chains and iron bars. Similarly, a conditioned soul is shackled by the charming beauty of a woman, by her solitary embraces and talks of so-called love, and by the sweet words of his small children. Thus, he forgets his real identity. In today's world, in most parts of the world, parallel polygamy is not socially acceptable. That means simultaneously a man cannot have many wives. But serial polygamy is very common. That means he marries one woman, divorces, marries another woman, divorces, marries another woman, and so on. Of course, before getting married, they have so many relationships with women, and sometimes children are born from them also. So this can be taken to a reference to the entire sequence of these activities within one's life. He is bewildered by the sweet words of the children. He is bewildered by the beauty of these women, one by one, or sometimes parallelly also. Sometimes it's a big mix. Sometimes they, while being in a relationship with one, they cheat that one. It is considered cheating if you simultaneously have a relationship with another one. And so on. And this goes both ways, both men and women. This is today's world. And the more westernized India is becoming, the more it's also becoming. Family life within the kingdom of illusory energy, Maya, is just like a prison. Thus, he forgets his real identity. In this verse, the words Trinam Asatinam indicate that womanly love is just to agitate the mind of man. Actually, in the material world, there is no love. Both the man and the woman, both the woman and the man are interested in their sense gratification. For sense gratification, woman creates an illusory love, and the man becomes enchanted by such false love and forgets his real duty. When there are children, as a result of such a combination, the next attraction is to the sweet words of the children, the love of the woman at home, and the talk of the children make one a secure prisoner, and thus he cannot leave his home. Such a person is termed in Vedic language a grihamethi, which means one whose center of attraction is home. Grihastha refers to one who lives with family, wife, and children, but whose real purpose of living is to develop Krishna consciousness. One is therefore advised to become a grihastha and not a grihamedhi. The grihastha's concern is to get out of the family life created by illusion and enter into real family life with Krishna. Whereas the Grihamedhi's business is to repeatedly chain himself to so-called family life, one life after another, and perpetually remain in the darkness of Maya. So, in other words, a materialistic householder or a material householder or spiritual householder. 9. गृहेषु कूटधर्मेषु दुःखतन्त्रेष्वतन्त्रितः कुर्वन् दुःखप्रतीकारं सुखवन् मन्यते गृही. The attached householder remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics, always spreading miseries and controlled by acts of sense gratification. He acts just to counteract the reactions of all his miseries. And if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks that he is happy. Kutaha, Kutadharmeshu. Kutaha, Vittashathya Bahula Dharma. In his household life, he has various duties. But those duties are predominated by or filled with abundant amount of uh, cheating with regards to money making and so on. Yeshu dukha tantreshu, dukha pradhaneshu. On top of it, family life is primarily filled with distress. So these things are all considered to be highly responsible life with deep social maturity. When you have that, then you can live a life like this and feel very good about it. In Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead himself certifies the material world as an impermanent place that is full of miseries. There is no question of happiness in this material world, either individually or in terms of family, society, or country. If something is going on in the name of happiness, that is also illusion. Here in this material world, happiness means successful contraction to the effects of distress. The material world is so made that unless one becomes a clever diplomat, his life will be a failure. So if you don't want to be diplomatic and so on, you want to be truthful and so on, then in fact, in today's world, they directly say you're unfit for family life. Not to speak of human society. Even the society of lower animals, the birds and bees, cleverly manages its bodily demands of eating, sleeping, and mating. Human society competes nationally or individually, and in the attempt to be successful, the entire human society becomes full of diplomacy. We should always remember that, in spite of all diplomacy and all intelligence, in the struggle for our existence, everything will end in a second by the Supreme Will. Therefore, all our attempts to become happy in this material world are simply a delusion offered by Maya. Question.
So if they simply say that we are not qualified to maintain a family, but the same people will not accept the spiritual life also.
Correct. Correct. Yes. So,
Then what is the importance of their saying?
yeah, what they're speaking is just some nonsense. But since they're in the vast majority, they think that they are the normal people, and that one who's interested in spiritual life is misguided. And those who give up family life in order to be spiritual, they think they are gone case.
And here it is mentioned that everything will end in second,
Everything will
but
end in
they they
second.
they, they
What is
can't
ending in
realize this
second?
also in the same paragraph
Where
at the end.
everything will end in a second by the supreme will.
So this also they cannot realize, but they are satisfied with their works only.
Because you only live once. So just live a bumper happy life. Go on.
So
Do some
how
good.
how so how it happens that some people feel that I'm not satisfied with my work, but some people only feel Then
Wow.
they find spirituality.
No, those who are blessed by the mercy of God coming through God's devotees, they are the ones who get a small little flash of Sattva, and therefore they are able to think. The moment you are able to contemplate and understand what is happening in your life, then you start investigating various things.
So
But the entire
Prabhu,
propaganda of Maya Devi is to keep everyone like this. That is being explained in this section.
but only some of them are, why some of them are only getting blessings to enter into
You
this
know, don't accept it.
Prabhu.
Now, the blessings are given, but the blessings are to be accepted also. So only some of them accept it. That is natural. So those who accept it, to whatever extent they accept it, to that extent there is some hope for spiritual realization.
So again, the question comes: why only some of them are accepting? Why many of them are not accepting?
That is up to them. That is up to them. Because there's so much. This is a world where everything is flowing downstream, and suddenly somebody says you have to swim upstream. Very few people will listen. Some of them are listening. It will always be like that. Anusharam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddha. Okay, let's move on. 10. अर्थैरापादितैर्गुर्या हिंसये तस्ततश्चित्तान्. This itastatas, there should be no hyphen between. Itaha tataha. Ushnati yesham poshena sheshabhuk yatyadha swayam. He secures money by committing violence here and there. And although he employs it in the service of his family, he himself eats only a little portion of the food thus purchased and he goes to hell for those for whom he earned the money in such an irregular way. Sheshabhuk, there is Sheshabhuk, Sheshabhuk, eating remnants. He himself eats only a little portion of the food thus purchased, the remnants. Tad bhukta avashishta bhuk iti bhogaha api tasya durlabha iti artha. So his enjoyment is also rarely attained, is only rarely attained. There's a Bengali proverb: the person for whom I have stolen accuses me of being a thief. Those who have, this is all a standard part of family life. The family members for whom an attached person acts in so many criminal ways are never satisfied. In illusion, an attached person serves such family members, and by serving them, he is destined to enter into a hellish condition of life. For example, a thief steals something to maintain his family and is caught and imprisoned. This is the sum and substance of material existence, an attachment to material society, friendship, and love. Although an attached family man is always engaged in getting money by hook or by crook for the maintenance of his family, he cannot enjoy more than what he could consume. Even without such criminal activities, a man who eats 8 ounces of foodstuffs may have to maintain a big family and earn money by any means to support that family. But he himself is not offered more than what he can eat, and sometimes he eats the remnants that are left after his family members are fed. Even by earning money by unfair means, he cannot enjoy life for himself. That is called the covering illusion of Maya. The process of illusory service to society, country, and community is exactly the same everywhere. The same principle is applicable even to big national leaders. A national leader who is very great in serving his country is sometimes killed by his countrymen because of irregular service. In other words, one cannot satisfy his dependence by this illusory service, although one cannot get out of the service because servant is his constitutional position. That means being a servant is his constitutional position. A living entity is constitutionally part and parcel of the Supreme Being, but he forgets that he has to render service to the Supreme Being and diverts his attention to serving others. This is called Maya. By serving others, he falsely thinks that he is master. The head of a family thinks of himself as the master of the family, or the leader of a nation thinks of himself as the master of the nation. Whereas actually he is serving. And by serving Maya, he is gradually going to hell. Therefore, a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, applying his whole life, all of his wealth, his entire intelligence, and his full power of speaking. 11. Vartayam lupyamanayam arabdhayam punah punah lobhabhibhuto nissattva pararthe kurute spraham. When he suffers reverses in his occupation, he tries again and again to improve himself. But when he is baffled in all attempts and is ruined, he accepts money from others because of excessive greed. Vartayam, Jivikayam. So when he suffers reverses in his occupation means when he suffers reverses in earning money. This is what happens. These are all completely normal in the life of materialistic people. 12. I mean amongst Anyabhilashis. 12. Kutumba bharana kalpo manda bhagyo vrithodhyamah shriya vihina kripano dhyayan shvasiti mudhadhi. Just unfortunate man, unsuccessful in maintaining his family members, is bereft of all. He always thinks of his failure, grieving very deeply. Putradi jivana upayam dhyayan. He always thinks about his inability to maintain his sons and others. He's thinking about how to provide them a source of livelihood and so on. And because he's not able to provide for it sufficiently, then he grieves very deep. 13. Evam swabharanakalpam tat kalatradayasthatha nadriyante yathapurvam chinasha iva gocharam. Seeing him unable to support them, his wife and others do not treat him with the same respect as before, even as miserly farmers do not accord the same treatment to their old and worn out oxen. Kinashaha, Krishivala, Kinasha refers to miserly farmers. Why is it Kinashaha? Kinashaha, yes. It should be Gojaram, Vriddham Balivarantam, Kinasha, farmers. Gojaram, Vriddha Balivar, and old ox. Even as miserly farmers do not accord the same treatment to their old and worn out oxen. Not only in the present age, but from time immemorial, no one has liked an old man who is unable to earn in the family. See, a woman is very much lovable when she has beauty. A man is very much lovable when he has money. Even in the modern age, in some communities or states, the old men are given poison so that they will die as soon as possible. In some cannibalistic communities, the old grandfather is sportingly killed and a feast is held in which his body is eaten. The example is given that a farmer does not like an old bull who has ceased to work. Similarly, when an attached person in family life becomes old and is unable to earn, he is no longer liked by his wife, sons, daughters, and other kinsmen. Because they all think that he is irresponsible. Because they think that somehow or other it's his duty to, until his last breath, provide as much money as is sufficiently required by his family members. and is consequently neglected, what to speak of not being given respect. It is judicious, therefore, to give up family attachment before one attains old age. It is judicious means it is wise to give a family attachment because it is going to lead to too much of embarrassment. And take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should employ himself in the Lord's service so that the Supreme Lord can take charge of him and he will not be neglected by his so called kinsmen. So, therefore, at least when one is 50 years or more, he should dedicate his life to engaging in Kevala Bhakti. He should engage in service to Hari Guru Vaishnavas. He should serve Lord Hari. He should serve the perfect Vaishnavas and he should serve more advanced Vaishnavas. And he should have a plan to make tangible progress in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he'll simply drag on. But in the association of more interested, more advanced devotees, it becomes easier to handle. Yes.
Oh, but this condition does not happen for a devotee family. It is for only for materialistic persons. They may do like that.
No, but we ourselves are not 100% devotees also. So, to whatever extent we are not devotees, to that extent we are not devotees. So, since this is a description of non-devotional life, to a certain degree, all of these impacts, the impact of all of this will be felt. So, it's not 100% irrelevant. There may be some relevance. If I'm 50% Krishna conscious, the Baki 50% is this is what is going to be experienced. 14. Let's move on. 14 and 15 are together. This is actually a remark on 15. 14. Tatrapyajata nirvedo bhriyamana swayam bhritai jarayopat vairupyo aranabhimukho grihe. The foolish family man does not become averse to family life, although he is maintained by those whom he once maintained. Deformed by the influence of old age, he prepares himself to meet ultimate death. This is all sad reality, the sad reality of life. You become deformed. Family attraction is so strong that even if one is neglected by family members in his old age, he cannot give a family affection. He remains at home, just like a dog. In the Vedic way of life, one has to give a family life when he is strong enough. It is advised that before getting too weak and being baffled in material activities and before becoming diseased, one should give up family life and engage oneself completely in the service of the Lord for the remaining days of his life. Therefore, it's enjoined in the Vedic scriptures that as soon as one passes 50 years of age, he must give up family life and live alone in the forest. Urdhva panchasha vanam vrajet. After preparing himself fully, he should become a sannyasi to distribute the knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home. Preparing himself fully means vanaprasthana. 15. Aste vamatyopanyasstam grihapalaivaharan Amayavi Amayavya Pradiptagnir Alpaharolpacheshtitaha. Thus he remains at home just like a pet dog and eats whatever is so negligently given to him, afflicted with many illnesses such as dyspepsia and loss of appetite. He eats only very small morsels of food and he becomes an invalid who cannot work anymore. Yes.
Prabhu, this taking Vanprastha at age 50, the age should be reduced because now duration is reduced. Duration of life in Kali
Yeah, there
Yuga.
are some senior devotees who say that this should be understood in terms of percentage. They say that 50 is for those who can live up to 100, and they say that it should be proportionately reduced. But Prabhupada did not speak like that. He also certainly knew that people are not living up to 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if you're in
Somebody,
family, you cannot, even on principle, you cannot think of getting out of it. It is a quicksand. It is very, very difficult to get out. So 50 we are saying, but very few actually move out at the age of 50. Even though they are in complete shoka, moha, bhaya. Even if it is, but due to previous piety, if they are more happy, then it becomes even more difficult to give up.
and some may say that nowadays people are entering only at 40 into family life.
No, but that is not. Then it is very difficult to leave. It is very, very difficult to leave if one enters at the age of 40 or 50 or 60. See, in the outside world, people do all these things. Just when I thought something I saw, somebody got married at the age of 66. Some non-devotee, some celebrity. It looks like, it's see, he was an atheist, of course, but generally they think first of all married life is better than unmarried life, which may be correct. Which may be correct because at least in family you have to sacrifice for others. But if you are not even that, then you don't even sacrifice for anyone else. You become a social nuisance, a nuisance for society. Absolutely, in an absolute sense. So this is also there. That is why everything has to be worked out on the basis of progress in the activities of bhakti itself. When one takes up the activities of sadhana bhakti, he increases. So when one endeavors to increase vairagya, vidya, Vishnu bhakti in the association of more advanced devotees, then things become much more doable over the decades. Things become much more doable. Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult. Dharmatma Prabhu wants to add something?
No.
So, Prabhu, in present days, if a practitioner of Krishna consciousness, he asks this question, that without leaving the family life, is it not possible to achieve success in spiritual life?
Theoretically, yes. Theoretically, yes. It is possible.
Mm-hmm.
One has to prove that he is that exception. He is part of that theory. He has to prove it. Purvam Bhritaih Putradirbhir Pryamanam Kshamanah. Previously, he was maintained by his sons and so on. How exactly they take care of him? That is pointed out in text 15. Vamatya, Avagyaya, Upanyastam, Prakshiptam, Grihapala, Shva Aharam, Bhunjana, Amayavi, Rogi. He is taken care of. That's a fact. But how is he taken care of? Avamatya, with avamati, which means with avagya, with insult, negligently. He's just thrown foodstuffs the way you throw it to a dog. And he also eats the way a dog simply eats whatever without any complaint, just happy to get some food, anything. Disease, all kinds of problems, afflicted with many illnesses. Disease. Before meeting death, one is sure to become a diseased invalid. And when he is neglected by his family members, his life becomes less than a dog's because he is put in so many miserable conditions. Vedic literatures therefore enjoin that before the arrival of such miserable conditions, one should leave home and die without the knowledge of his family members. If a man leaves home and dies without his families knowing, that is considered to be a glorious death. But an attached family man wants his family members to carry him in a great procession even after his death. And although he will not be able to see how the procession goes, he still desires that his body be taken gorgeously in procession. They say all these kind of things actually. After I die, my death rites should be performed very nicely, as if they, as if they want to come back as a ghost and see how exactly you're taking care of their dead body. There was one man, an Indian man only. He connected to ISKCON. He said, after I die, my wife should not remarry. So there was a big uproar in certain parts of ISKCON. This fellow is already, first of all, you're talking about a situation that this fellow died. While he's living, he's tormenting his wife, saying, you cannot do this, you should not do this, all these things. And after dying, also, he's putting conditions for his wife. So in today's world, people don't, they cannot handle these concepts even. Because many of these ideas are very foolish. That after I die, you should give a feast. I want to make sure that the feast is very tasty. And this, what is this? Therefore, in Vedic literature, it is said that just leave. That's all. It's just too complicated. It's too complicated. You cannot work it out. It's too complicated. Thus, he is happy without even knowing where he has to go when he leaves his body for the next life. Text 16. Vayanot kramatot taraha kapha samruddha nardika kasa shwasa kritayasa kante gurugurayate. In that disease condition, one's eyes bulge due to the pressure of air from within, and his glands become congested with mucus. He has difficulty breathing. And upon exhaling and inhaling, he produces a sound like guru gura, a rattling within the throat. Question.
So, but according to culture, Vedic culture, it is not proper that one should live and die somewhere because the family members has a responsibility to offer pindana, something like that. Then it seems it is not practical answer.
What is not practical answer? People always go to Kashi to die. They go to Himalayas. These things are still going on. They leave home. I myself know some people whose fathers have left home. Not Krishna conscious and all. Hindus, but they've left home. In their old age, they've left home.
But
The whole idea is
unknowingly
that
they
at
will leave
the end
home.
of one's life, one must engage in pious activities so that you'll have a better life next life. These things are still going on. Okay. Utkramata. काशाद्याधिक्येन ऊर्ध्वमुत्तिष्ठता कपरुद्धन् नाडीमार्गेण वायुना हेतुना उद्वर्तिता तारा पक्ष्णः कनीनिका यस्य स. One's eyes bulge, his pupil looks up because of too much of cough and so on. There is the pressure of vata, which pushes, which forcibly comes out through the nadis, and which itself is stopped through kapha. So therefore, all these problems come. Gura gura iti shabdam karoti, and then he produces a sound like gura gura. 17. Shayana parishochadbhi parivita swabandhubhi vachyamanopi na brute kalapasha vasham gataha. In this way, he comes under the clutches of death and lies down, surrounded by lamenting friends and relatives. And although he wants to speak with them, he no longer can because he's under the control of time. For formality's sake, when a man is lying on his deathbed, his relatives come to him. Sometimes they cry very loudly, addressing the dying man. Oh, my father, oh, my friend, or oh, my husband, in that pitiable condition. The dying man wants to speak with them and instruct them of his desires, but because he is fully under the control of the time factor, death, he cannot express himself. And that causes him inconceivable pain. He's already in a painful condition because of disease, and his glands and throat are choked up with mucus. He's already in a very difficult position. And when he's addressed by his relatives in that way, his grief increases. 18. एवं कुटुंब भरणे व्यापृतात्मा जितेन्द्रियः म्रियते रुदतां स्वानां उरुवेदनयास्तद्धि. Thus the man who engaged with uncontrolled senses in maintaining a family dies in great grief, seeing his relatives crying. He dies most pathetically, in great pain, without consciousness. Astadhihi, nashtamatihi, bereft of consciousness. Without consciousness means his intelligence is lost. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that at the time of death, one will be absorbed in the thoughts which he cultivated during his lifetime. A person who has no other idea than to properly maintain his family members must have family affairs in his last thoughts. That is a natural sequence for a common man. The common man does not know the destiny of his life. He is simply busy in his flash of life, maintaining his family. At the last stage, no one is satisfied with how he has improved the family economic condition. Everyone thinks that he could not provide sufficient. Because of his deep family affection, he forgets his main duty of controlling the senses and improving his spiritual consciousness. Sometimes a dying man entrusts the family affairs to either his son or some relative, saying, I'm going, please look after the family. He does not know where he is going, but even at the time of death, he is anxious about how his family will be maintained. Sometimes it is seen that a dying man requests a physician to increase his life, at least for a few years, so that the family maintenance plan, which he has begun, can be completed. These are the material diseases of the conditioned soul. He completely forgets his real engagement to become Krishna conscious and is always serious about planning to maintain his family. Although he changes families one after another. Yes.
So we hear that when a man is dying, he gets so much pain that 60,000 scorpions, when they bite, he feel such type of pain. Then is it true?
I've heard something like that, but if you get scriptural evidence, you give it to me. I'll flush it out. It's very important.
Yeah, why I'm just thinking, if that pain comes, then how he can able to think about all these things in that time. And I also saw, I don't see such type of person that he is feeling pain and something when he
That must
dies.
be a time of leaving the body. That's why we need to see that the quote, where it comes, what it says. All these things has to be examined.
Yeah.
Dharmatma Prabhu.
I have seen the quote. It is 100 scorpion. It comes in
Wow.
the Quran.
Where it comes, post it in the group.
Okay. And
Very,
another
very
thing, my interpretation is not just the physical pain. For example, when we lose something, we feel a pain. We feel pain, isn't it? If we lose our some belongings or something. Similarly, when we are dying, I think we are losing everything. That itself is a pain. It may not be the physical pain, but that itself is a pain, that the thought of losing everything. Now nothing will belong to me. Whatever I had is going to, we are going to leave that. So itself is a pain.
But the bite of a scorpion is a physical pain. This is emotional pain.
Yeah. But that comes, I have seen that it is 100 scorpion. I have seen that quote.
See, that's why I want to see where it comes. Is it talking about sinful people? Is the pain of death different for people who have engaged
actually,
in
that is talking about the sinful people only. The quote itself says that sinful people feels the 100 scorpion pain while dying.
Send the quote and send the reference also so that we can trace it out. People keep asking these kind of questions many times. It will be useful to examine all this. Okay. 19. Yamadutau tada praptau bhimau sarabhasikshanav sadrishtva trasta hridaya shakrin mutram vimunchati. At death, he sees the messengers of the Lord of Death come before him. Their eyes full of wrath. Wrath means fury. And in great fear, he passes stool and urine. Mritasya papat manaha gatimaha. The destination of a sinful soul who has just died is now going to be described from text 19. So, Mriyamanaha, when he is about to die, there are two kinds of transmigration of a living entity after passing away from the present body. One kind of transmigration is to go to the controller of sinful activities, who is known as Yamaraj, and the other is to go to the higher planets up to Vaikuntha. Here, Lord Kapila describes how persons engaged in activities of sense gratification to maintain a family are treated by the messengers of Yamaraj called Yamadutas. At the time of death, the Yamadutas become the custodians of those persons who have strongly gratified their senses sinfully. They take charge of the dying man and take him to the planet where Yamaraj resides. The conditions there are described in the following verses. 20. Yatana deha avritya pashair badhva gale balat nayato dirghamadhvanam dandyam raja bhataya tha. As a criminal is arrested for punishment by the constables of the state, a person engaged in criminal sense gratification is similarly arrested by the Yamadutas, who bind him by the neck with strong rope and cover his subtle body so that he may undergo severe punishment. Sthula dehat nishkasya, having extricated that soul with the subtle body from the gross body. Yatanamaya dehe tam praveshya, he is placed inside a body which is meant for torture. Avritya, and then he is arrested. Nirudhya is obstructed. Tau nayataha prapayataha, and then they take him. Every living entity is covered by subtle and gross body. The subtle body is a covering of mind, ego, intelligence, and consciousness. It is said in the scriptures that the constables of Yamaraj cover the subtle body of the culprit and take him to the abode of Yamaraj to be punished in a way that he is able to tolerate. He does not die from this punishment, because if he died, then who would suffer the punishment? It is not the business of the constables of Yamaraj to put one to death. In fact, it is not possible to kill a living entity, because factually he is eternal. He simply has to suffer the consequences of his activities of sense gratification. The process of punishment is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Formerly, the king's men would take a criminal in a boat in the middle of the river. They would dunk him by grasping a bunch of his hair and thrusting him completely underwater. And when he was almost suffocated, the king's constables would take him out of the water and allow him to breathe for some time. And then they would again dunk him in the water to suffocate. This sort of punishment is inflicted upon the forgotten soul. Forgotten soul. The soul who has forgotten his relationship with the Supreme Authority, Lord Vishnu, by Yamaraj, as will be described in the following verses. 21. So it looks like the Yatana Deha, the body meant for torture, is also subtle. 21. Tayor nirbhinna hridayas tarjanair jatave pathuhu pathishvabhir bhakshyamana artogham swam anusmaran. What is this? This is like 19, 20, 21, 22 come together. Yes. While carried by the constables of Yamaraj, he is overwhelmed and trembles in their hands. While passing on the road, he is bitten by dogs and he can remember the sinful activities of his life. He is just terribly distressed. Question.
Prabhu, why Yamdutas are angry on him? Because he has not done bhakti.
Oh, that and all will come when you come to that sixth canto, we will see why they are angry at him. Because he does not, he has committed sinful activities and so many reasons are there. Tayos.
And Prabhu, Yamdutas are, they do some devotional service.
Who?
Yamdutas.
Probably.
Okay, Prabhu.
So there are two Yamadutas, Tayoho. So it looks like for each sinful soul who dies, Nayataha, they too leave, two of them leave, dual. Yamadutau, two messengers of Maharaj. It looks like they get two. Praptau, Bhimau, Sarabhasa, Ikshanau, all dual. Tayoho, Tarjanaihi, Swamagham Tasyaiva Papasya Phalamidam Anubhavami iti Smaran. By their threats and so on, his heart is broken. He begins to tremble and he remembers the sinful activities of his life. Swamakam tasyaiva papasya phalam idam anubhavam. Now I'm experiencing the consequences of having engaged in my sinful activity. Nirashrama udake vishrama jala sthala jalarahite pathi. That's going to come in the next verse probably. Nirashrama udake. It appears from this verse that while passing from this planet to the planet of Yamaraj, the culprit is arrested by Yamaraj's constables. The culprit arrested by Yamaraj's constables meets many dogs which bark and bite just to remind him of his criminal activities of sense gratification. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that one becomes almost blind and is bereft of all sense when he is infuriated by the desire for sense gratification. He forgets everything. Kamaisasya Vritagyana. One is bereft of all intelligence when he is too attracted by sense gratification and he forgets that he has to suffer the consequences also. Here the chance for recounting his activities of sense gratification is given by the dogs engaged by Yamaraj. So because the dogs are biting him, therefore he remembers. While we live in the gross body, such activities of sense gratification are encouraged even by modern government regulations. In every state all over the world, such activities are encouraged by the government in the form of birth control. Women are supplied pills and they're allowed to go to a clinical laboratory to get assistance for abortions. This is going on as a result of sense gratification. Contraception is a sinful activity for which one has to suffer. Actually, sex life is meant for begetting a good child, but because people have no control over the senses and there's no institution to train them to control the senses, the poor fellows fall victim to the criminal offenses of sense gratification, sinful sense gratification. They're punished after death as described in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Mohan Radhapati, who's asking?
Prabhu Achyutanandas. Prabhu, this criminal sense gratification is written. That means sinless sense gratification, if they do, Yamdutas will leave them?
No.
They will...
Yes.
Okay. Okay, bro.
But since sinless sense gratification does not purify the mind, and one engages in these activities because he is impelled by his past karma and by his past vasanas, there is a very good chance that he will also engage in some sinful activity along with that pious activity, at least by mistake. Some prarabdha karma, something will push him. So then when he engages in that sinful activity, then the Yamadutas, he comes under Yamaraj's radar. That is why it is said one should engage in spiritual activities. Somapati Prabhu.
So if a family man is having a desires, he enjoys it with his wife. He don't want to get a many children, so he uses contraceptives. So that also comes under sinful activities.
Prabhupada repeatedly says contraception is sinful.
But he is having so many desires. He got a wife. Then how he has to work?
How he has to engage in spiritual activities to cool down. (22) Shutrit paritor kaddava nala nilai santapyamanah pathi taptavaluke krichreena prushthe kashaya chataditas chalatyashaktopi nirashramodake. Under the scorching sun, the criminal has to pass through roads of hot sand with forest fires on both sides. He is whipped on the back by the constables because of his inability to walk. And he is afflicted by hunger and thirst. But unfortunately, there is no drinking water, no shelter, no place for rest on the road. Nirashrama udake, without shelter or water. Vishrama sthala, jala rahite pathi. There's no place to take rest while walking. There's no place to from which one can get drinking water, because one will have thirst. That yatana sharira, it produces all these afflictions, hunger, thirst, tiredness, and so on. 23. Tatra tatra patan shranto murshitah punaruthitah patha papi yasa nitas tarasa yamasadana. While passing on that road to the abode of Yamaraj, he falls down in fatigue and sometimes he becomes unconscious, but is forced to rise again. In this way, he is very quickly brought to the presence of Yamaraj. 24. Yojananam sahasrani navatim navachadhvanaha tribhir muhurtair dvabhyam va nitah prapnoti yatana. Thus he has to pass 99,000 yojanas within 2 or 3 moments. And then he is at once engaged in the torturous punishment which he is destined to suffer. Right. Oh, 24, 25, 26, 27 is a cluster in Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur edition. Advanaha sambandhina yojanana navatim nava cha sahasrani tribhih muhurtaihi dvabhyam va muhurtabhyam nitaha atikramitaha. within 2 or 3 muhurtas. Madhvacharya said something. Tribhir muhurtair dvabhyam va dinair dashabhireva va pakshon masena va yati yamalokam ito gataha iti Naradiya. He quotes from Naradiya Purana that for some it is 2 or 3 muhurtas. It could be 3 muhurtas, 2 muhurtas. It could be 3 days. It could be 10 days. It could be a fortnight. It could be a month. It takes that much time to go to Yamaloka. It looks like for different people with different degrees of sinful activities. There are also different grades of sinful activities. There are different calculations how much time it will take. 1 yojana is calculated to be 8 miles, and he has to pass along a road which is therefore as much as 792,000 miles. Such a long distance is passed over within a few moments only. The subtle body is covered by the constable so that the living entity can pass such a long distance quickly and at the same time tolerate the suffering. This covering, although material, is of such fine elements that material scientists cannot discover what the coverings are made of. To pass 792,000 miles within a few moments seems wonderful to the modern space travelers. They have so far traveled at a speed of 18,000 miles per hour. Here we see that a criminal passes 792,000 miles within a few seconds only. Although the process is not spiritual but material, Adipanam Swagatranam Veshtayit Olmukadibhihi Atma Mamsa Dhanam Kvapi Swakritam Paratopiva. He is placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood. What is this? Vishnu Chakravarti's commentary is here. Advana Sambandhina Yojana Navatyam Sasrana Navatya Adhikani. Papadhike Dvabhyam Eva Muhurtabhyam Nitasan. So normally it will take 3 muhurtas, but if there's too much sinful activity, then 2 muhurtas. Muhurta is generally understood as a moment, but sometimes muhurta is defined as longer than that. I think 48 minutes or something. But here it appears that it should be very fast. It should be fast. Okay. He's placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood and his limbs are set on fire. In some cases, he's made to eat his own flesh or have it eaten by others. Yatana evaha. He then describes the torments, tortures. Adipanam, prajvalanam, ityadinam prapnoti iti anena anvayaha. So one form of punishment is burning. Swena krittam chinnam puratah parainava. In some cases, he's made to eat food that has been cut out of his own body, or somebody else cuts out his own body. Yes.
Prabhu, from where this body has come into the scene? Actually, they are carrying the subtle body that is made
Yeah,
of mind,
it's all subtle.
intelligence, and
This is also subtle also. All of this is subtle. Everything here is subtle. The wood is subtle, the fire is subtle, this body is subtle, the cutting instrument is subtle, everything is subtle.
so he will be given some body.
The Yatana Sharira. It is a special arrangement of the subtle body with which he has to suffer.
So we saw in that first look, I think this is covered, he is carried with covering something. That covering is the body, they are saying.
Yeah, it looks like. It looks like. From this verse through the next 3 verses, the description of punishment will be narrated. The first description is that the criminal has to eat his own flesh. burning with fire, or allow others like himself who were present there to eat. In the last Great War, people in concentration camps sometimes ate their own stool. So there is no wonder that in the Yamasadana, it must be, in the residence of Yamaraj, the abode of Yamaraj, one who had a very enjoyable life eating others' flesh has to eat his own flesh. 26. Jivataschantra bhyudhara swagridhrair yamasadane. No, it is sadhana only. So, correct. Yamasadane. Sarpa vrishchika damshadhyai dashadbhish chatma vaishasam. His entrails, that means his intestines, are pulled out by the hounds, dogs, and vultures of hell, even though he is still alive to see it, and is subjected to torment by serpents, scorpions, gnats, and other creatures that bite him while he is alive, even though he is still alive to see it. Vaishyasam, Pidam, Atma Vaishyasam. So, in that way, he is able to see. He is made to experience such torment of his body, painful torment. Okay.
What is this concentration camps? And how a human can eat the stool?
Yeah, there were concentration camps. The prisoners, they were all held together. World War II, World War I, World War II, like that.
So why there is a need of eating the stool?
Because they had no food to eat. This is just ordinary world history. Okay, Mohan Radhapati.
Through the Shraddha ceremony which we read, so the things offered, they, like the ancestors, they get at this time basically, like while they are going to hell, and these times.
No, as far as I know, no. Shraddha ceremony is for pious forefathers. I don't think it's for those who are going to hell. As far as I know, I haven't studied this whole topic of Shraddha. But as far as I understand, it is for, it could be, possible. Prabhupada says that some of them might be in ghostly existence, and to free them from that, also some rituals are performed. Possible, it's possible. Possible.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, here it doesn't work out because this whole description is of a sinful person. You see, in this whole description, there was no mention of any type of worship of the Supreme Godhead or any kind of devotional service. There's no mention at all of God anywhere, the Supreme Lord anywhere. There's not even a mention of him honoring demigods, or it's just yathechacha, just lead your life. You do what you just follow your heart and do your thing. That's all. This is ordinary sinful life. So these people have to suffer.
Mm-hmm. For them also, if their children do some Shraddha, so will they get or not? That's simple.
It looks like Shraddha has to be investigated to find out what it is meant for. But it is a very major section in the Dharma Shastras. Shraddha is a very major topic of discussion in some of the Dharma Shastras. There's so many different types of Shraddha also. I got completely bewildered when I started looking at, for some reason, I had to look at something connected to Shraddha. I was so surprised. So much discussion about Shraddha. Looks like it's a very serious ritual amongst the karmis. Karmi means those who are engaged in karma and who avoid sinful activities. All right. We'll
Prabhu,
resume.
so when we say the pious activities, but people perform both activities, pious activities and sinful activities. So for such persons also, this kind of punishment will be there.
Those who execute sinful activities will have to suffer. We will see that later. We will come across a case much later. We will see that later.
Okay, Prabhu.
In Bhagavatam it will come. Okay. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.